We're back with Chris Anthony from CAL FIRE, finishing up on defensible space. We need to know exactly what is defensible space. A tree that's healthy is not something you have to worry about taking out, correct?
Right, so with defensible space, a lot of things that we're looking at is making sure that pine needles are raked up around a house. Those are surface fuels that can draw a fire to a house. Making sure that tree limbs are limbed up so fire can't travel up into the canopy of trees. And large healthy trees are generally not the fire risk. If there's hundreds of trees surrounding a house and it's very dense and thick, kind of like that picture that we saw earlier, that's a problem. Right. But it's a matter of getting a lot of that dead vegetation removed from around the house.
And like juniper trees, which can explode on you, I found out. We also need to talk about preparation, because that's huge, and evacuation. Let's talk about that.
Right, so once you have your defensible space in place, the next thing that you really need to start thinking about is evacuation planning. So what are you going to do when that wildland fire comes towards your house? And what most people don't realize is that fire travels incredibly, incredibly quickly, and there's not a lot of time to get out of a house as the fire approaches. And I have some photos here of some large fires. This is the Sand Fire. It blew up very fast. It impacted a number of homes very quickly, and there was a lot of evacuations that occurred in a very short amount of time. The next picture that I have is a forest fire, and you can see how large they get. And they develop their own weather, and they begin to travel extremely fast. So it's so important for people to have an evacuation plan in place prior to this happening.
So an evacuation plan would be, I got to do something with the dog or the cat, and I know what I'm going to take here, and I'm going to plan ahead of time on a piece of paper, I would assume somewhere, exactly what I'm going to do to get out safely.
Exactly. It's a wildfire action plan that you put together prior to having to evacuate. And people need to, just think about things like their computers, external hard drives, passports, birth certificates, important documents that they have, medications that they take. There's so many things that are so important that some can't be replaced if your house were to burn down. And those are the things that we really encourage people to have a plan in place for, so that if something does happen, they're ready to go and they can take that with them.
And that piece of paper is just somewhere you have it. It's very handy. You just pull it out.
Absolutely.
And you just go from there. Because this is what it's going to look like. If we get to this point, it's probably too late. You need to be gone.
Exactly. And what's the point of this is when a fire impacts a neighborhood, it gets very dark very quickly. It can become very disorienting. And it's so important for people to have evacuation routes in place as well. And just to think about, if a fire was approaching my house from this side or from this side, how am I going to get out? Which way am I going to go?
Now, that's an idea. You just find an open road, the closest one to your house, and take it, or go out the back door into some kind of a neighbor's lawn or something, because when it does hit, and this is an example of it hitting, it's too late. You have got to be gone.
Yes, you have to be gone, and I encourage people not to wait for the evacuation order to be placed, because by then it can be too late. If there's a problem and there's a fire that's approaching your house, by all means, leave the area and put your plan into place.
Well, it serves two purposes. Not only that, but wouldn't you say it makes it easier for the firefighting people to get in and stop the fire if there's nobody in the way?
Yes, absolutely, and that's such an important point, because we've had problems with ingress and egress out of subdivisions. When you get a lot of people coming out one way and you get fire engines coming in the other, it can cause roadblocks, it can delay the response. And life is our #1 priority, and so if we have people that we need to be rescued out of homes, that delays our ability to put the fire out.
Great, thank you very much. I'm so glad you came in. Chris Anthony from CAL FIRE. Very important tips. Let's make sure we keep ourselves safe and keep the fires out of the Lake Tahoe Basin. It's not something we need to deal with, and we appreciate more coming up after this.